Hello, my name is Martin Caplan. I am the head of blockchain games for Amber, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our generative AI machine learning plus games strategy. I am in charge of a few studios at Amber. We're a worldwide organization that does game dev services as an agency, and my studios, Merlin, Grail, and Excalibur, focus in and around blockchain games, but we're doing a lot with machine learning as well, as you'll see. So why are we talking about machine learning and AI? Well, I think that it's right there in the middle of the news. There's a lot of interesting new developments in and around it, but artificial intelligence is not what we're talking about. We are talking about applied statistics, as the author Ted Chiang says. And so, with that in mind, let's get the big picture. In the beginning was the Word. So a lot of this stuff is seeming like magic, and there's some deep magic in being able to like express yourself with your imagination in a way that is mediated and or enabled by technology. And so one thing to keep in mind, even with this big idea of creating the world with words, it's all really, really understandable and something that is pretty amazing for not only game developers like Amber, but for every single one of the players who play our games. A little more down to earth here. In the future, UGC platforms will be huge. They're already huge, and they're going to get bigger as everyone who's growing up with being able to make stuff any way they want is able to do that with an easier and easier method using machine learning underlying technology. So players will expect this. They're going to be choosing only games and platforms and entertainment things that allow them permission to play and create. And one thing that we are very, very interested in, just like these Convoy.vc guys are really interested in, is getting ahead of that, making systems for that, and making sure that we're innovating in ways that make sense to position ourselves to be competitive in the future and make interesting things happen, experiences that are fun and engaging, retain, monetize. All that stuff is wrapped up into some of this new technology that's becoming possible. And everybody else is going into it too. You can see this is the generative AI for virtual worlds map from the amazing John Radoff, who's one of my favorite people. He's just plug for John. He's the one of the principal technical people at Beamable, which is a really great tool set for backend for games, and is doing a lot of very interesting edge running, as you might say, to this. And this is his chart, version 3, with a lot of different interesting things in it. I won't go too deep into this, but the categories that he proposes here are experience, discovery, creator economy, spatial computing, decentralization, human interface, and infrastructure. And you can kind of give an idea of what the big name companies that are here, but also some other ones that are essentially selling the picks and shovels for this new set of possibilities. And we at Amber intend, as we always have, to be really well versed and master on an ongoing basis all the relevant tools to make games with and to make great experiences that are interactive with. So to go a little bit further, drilling down into what this creating things means with ML, well, this is another great set of information and analysis from the Building the Metaverse blog, where proposing different levels of how automated is your content. So if you think about how people make stuff in games, for Amber, we can go all the way down to 0. There's no automation. We make everything. We have artists. We have engineers. We have designers. We have all kinds of folks who are making stuff essentially by hand with code. Lots of different tools we use. Game engines for one, like Unity, like Unreal, those kind of things. But essentially, it's really all by hand. And as we go up these different levels where you start to have, creator assistants. Well, that's where you have a game team that's using some tools and things like SpeedTree or things that are, or even physics engines. Those are all, automatic, but we do set them up and watch them go as game developers in systems. And then we're starting to get into what's possible now and hasn't really been before with machine learning, where we have partial automation that eliminates previous steps in pipelines that create content for games or entire games themselves, making level 3 stuff where you have conditionally generative stuff where there is real-time reaction going on. And you could say that, say, a shooter AI is kind of like this, but that's not generative. It's more pre-programmed, scripted, and does react in interesting ways because it's designed that way, but it has a very limited scope compared to what you can do with, say, dialogue for NPCs driven by ChatGPT-4. That kind of thing is starting to be really interesting, especially as you go into highly generative or the direct from imagination. So this is going back to the "there was the word" quote, where all of the pipelines are creating things in real time for in reaction and in partnership with the players and the creators of games. So we're really excited about all the possibilities of this. We're really more in the level 2, level 3, just with the stuff that I'm talking about in a minute here. But we plan to be ahead of the curve as much as we can as we go. So the first project that we are going to just talk about is an internal experiment that we did at Amber called Hordes. And it's a pet simulator that combines 3D blockchain and generative AI to tame, nurture, and feed a little changeling, which is a living chest that can barf stuff. And, as you can see here, the 3D generated gear using Google Dream Fusion, after a lot of research, a lot of experimentation, these are pieces that came out of the generative backend that we created that we will marry with the front end of the chest so that we are able to make things sort of come out of the chest by magic. And not really magic, but in a gamified way that allows really easy, casual use of a ML engine to make stuff that you can then wear, quote unquote, as your character, not only in the game, but outside of the game, with a lot of other interesting things we're going to do in and around having composable game assets that work outside of just the Hordes game. And the way we did this is really take a lot of stuff that is right on the bleeding edge, right, moving from academia into the interesting new worlds of game development, and then other pieces. We made one really important thing to talk about is, of course, having the model be trained on custom-made corpus. So a corpus in this sense is not a dead body. It is a set of images or 3D models or both that are created from scratch by humans, so that we know where they came from. There's no question that they may be coming from somewhere else, and that is really important for Amber because our clients trust us to make sure that all of the stuff that we make for them and them only. And so we are applying that principle, which is an ethical principle really, into using this new tool where we want to go from essentially text or prompts to 3D, and so we've achieved it. We've been doing some very interesting work in and around sort of going from images into 3D, and so we have these really rough looking 3D objects, but they are objects and they are able to be sort of used as a game asset. Super early, not saying it isn't. You're going to see a lot more kit bashing like this, especially from John Rightoff, as I mentioned before, but we are definitely making a lot of progress here, and we are investing in making sure that we can do this as a really interesting pipeline that has a lot of very interesting applications, for games, but also beyond games and to our business itself in a lot of ways, which I'll talk about in a second. This is the map of all of the sort of 3D generative architecture that we put into place. I won't go into it too much, but you can see here the data set is really all about making an initial original set of corpus of training data. Then there's a prompt. Those combine into a web app, which we're building to put a front end on it, and we can use just a regular web page to do that, or we can move into using Unity and Unreal and other game engines as a front end, and then that feeds into and out of the system in various ways, where we're generating the training for the 3D model, and we have various ways to parse this. We have we're currently using Hugging Face and as a Dream Fusion provider, but it's going to be modular, so we can use lots of different ones, and partner with whoever our agency our agency clients would like, and then doing 2D and 3D Genesis, kind of as described in the previous slide. And then having a whole backend design so that we can keep track of all of these things as game assets and store them and pack them up into feeding back into the model in an interesting way, so that the more it gets used, the more it improves, which is a really interesting new way to think about the partnership that you have. I mean, usually we'll, of course, get feedback. We have a lot of analytics with players. We analyze their behavior. We listen to qualitative stuff from them. But this is a way to sort of do UGC as a partnership with your creator community. And the better you can engage your community, the better your game and overall IP and brand improves. So that's our theory. We're sticking to it. The last little bit we'll just talk about is what's the market opportunity that we see here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but there's kind of three big categories that we're thinking of as Amber, as a game development agency. So internally, we should be using this tool to be faster at better quality. That's just kind of almost a no-brainer, although it takes a lot of brains to make these things. But we are going to use this as part of our services to make us help us deliver more better to our clients. B2C, which is the business to consumer. So this is really where the rubber hits the road in terms of UGC to players themselves, where we would make kind of like we make a generator for puzzles, or a generator for levels, or a generator for, or even just any kind of system for in-app purchasing, all that kind of stuff. This is another service that we would add in as a feature to a game, and that would enable lots of very interesting ways for players to express themselves, to make stuff, to feel like they own stuff in the game, and eventually maybe even outside of the game, because we will have the ability to use blockchain technology to go and make all these things they're making composable, which is what we're doing with Hordes. And B2B for our clients, we really need to be good at this, just like we really need to be good at QA, and we really need to be good at engineering, and we really need to be good at art, and all the other disciplines of game development. So we really need to be good at making generators, and we can make those as a one-off tool that's only ever internal, that gets used to ideate, explore during the concept phase, might make prototypes that then, in partnership with the client, we pick and choose from, might you make us faster at developing code that's better with a QA, unit tests, maybe all kinds of things. And then it might actually exist as a feature in the live game and then the live ops game, making lots of interesting, fresh new content for players to enjoy as part of the live ops plan. And we would operate all that as a service. And so that's really, really where we're coming from here. Is there's a lot of opportunity with these new technologies, and Amber is hoping to be one of those go-to companies for really interesting, innovative game development services and beyond, as we develop our own expertise in this area. Thank you. You can contact bizdev@amberstudio.com if you are interested in hearing more.